Welcome, physics students. All right, this video, the last video you're going to have to watch for me for this week. We're really trying to wrap up this unit, and that's going to include kind of seeing where we've been, how far we've come since we started this unit that's been focusing on waves. Then I'm going to talk about the Capstone project. Because like before we were all sent home, after every unit, after each of our big questions, we did some kind of project, whether you were building a little car out of a tissue box, or you made some kind of a poster or an Instagram story kind of mock post. We're going to look at our project for the end of this unit. And then, to be honest, we're going to talk about how the semester is going to wrap up. Because after this week, there's only 2 weeks left of the classic school year. One of those weeks is finals week, and we'll talk about what's going on there, but that's certainly not a normal type of week. And then next week, that's dead week, and we'll talk about what's going on during those last 2 weeks. And that's it. That's going to be this video. So it's okay if you don't understand the comic. I told you, you don't really need to know binary. I used to do class activities where you would kind of decode a sentence, but you know, that's kind of boring, it's very tedious, and it's not vital to understand things. So if you don't get the joke, that's okay, but 100 is a binary representation if you kind of ignore the first 5 zeros of the number 4. Anyway, this is what we've been working on. I think, to be honest, the days are starting to blur together, but I think we started working on this right before we were sent home, right before the global pandemic shut our school down. And it's all about how do you take, send, and view a snap. Okay, how is it that your phone is able to take an image, store an image? How does it send that image, that data out to, say, another phone or another location? And then how do you view and how do you listen to whatever that post might be? And if you recall, after learning about like some basic definitions of waves, we started kind of right here. We started at the end. We talked about sound waves, so hopefully you kind of remember how we hear, how we're able to detect sound. We talked about visible light, colors, combining colors, white, black, how your eyes are able to see with cones, this idea of mixing colors. Okay, we then went into this one, so we kind of worked backwards. Okay, sending information. Then we brought in our understanding to radio waves and microwaves, and that's especially important because that's the type of waves we use to send information. Hopefully you have a working idea of the basics behind an antenna. All right, and then kind of wrapping up, we started looking at the technology side of this unit. Okay, a little bit about how cameras work. Also a little bit about how computers work. This idea of analog data or analog transmission versus digital transmission or digital storage. We looked at transistors. That is the blood of all of our computing devices, these transistors. And then hopefully by now you have a pretty decent working understanding of what those transistors are doing. What's their job? This idea of ones and zeros, yes or no, electricity or no electricity. All right, now, of course, we certainly, left things out. You could spend years trying to understand some of the more complicated, some of the more nuanced parts of this. But hopefully you have a better idea now of the physics and the technology behind these aspects of how your phone is able to operate. And I like this in particular because this kind of combines to our last unit. Remember, how do wireless chargers work? So you could, not that I'm going to make you, give a rundown of how your phone gets charged, gets power from the power plant, okay, electricity and magnetism, that wireless charger, and then how you take that phone off the charger, you take an image of something, you send it to someone, and then, at the end of the day, you put the phone back on the charger. All right, but that's our unit, and we're done learning physics and we're done learning technology, at least from my end, on this big key question, okay? So let's talk about our capstone project. First, I know I'm posting this video on Tuesday, so we'll say the project is due Saturday. This is the last thing for this week. So I know there were a few videos, and they were nice and short, right? There were a few videos for Monday and Tuesday, all right? This is the last thing you have to do for this week, all right? And here's the capstone. And this is pretty much based on what I used to do in past years. in past years, we as a class made a panel of comics. Okay, we had like one big comic strip and different groups were responsible for making like one panel, one piece of the story. Obviously, we can't do this in groups, all right? So you're going to be responsible for making one panel of a comic that is telling the story of our big question. How do you take, how do you send, and how do you view a snap? I'll show you the breakdown. I'm going to tell you what these there's 6 total, panels are, but you're going to be responsible for making one of them, this one part of the story. And you're going to create a visual that's representing what's going on. Think of a comic. In a comic, there are visuals kind of showing the action, and then there's captions. This will admittedly be a little lamer, right? Because you're going to include some physics stuff, some technology information, but there's the idea of having a visual and then describing what's going on, including some physics and technology information to inform the reader, whoever is viewing this panel. Okay, now for this, it can either be digital or it can be by hand. If it's digital, to be honest, it might be similar if you remember our last Capstone project where we made like a fake Instagram story post. Okay, where you threw up images on a Google slide. I have a template already for you. I'll get to that in just a second. But this should be more like a comic. There should be more words, more text in this capstone than what we did before. I'll talk about that more later. Now, if you'd rather do it by hand, let's say you're at home, you have some nice like printer paper, or just printer paper, you have colored pens and pencils, and you like drawing, stuff like that, you could definitely do this by hand. That's okay too. So you have a choice. You can do it digitally. You can find images online and copy and paste them, add text to a Google slide, or you could do this thing by hand. I leave it up to you, whatever you're more interested in doing. I'm actually going to leave the slide right here, and I'm going to go to our actual document. This is what's going to be shared with you in just a second if you don't already see it. Okay, these are your instructions, and I want to talk about this paper briefly if I can. Okay, I already said this. You'll assemble one panel of a comic story that describes how we take, send, and view a snap. Right here is a link. Right here is a link to an optional. You don't have to use it, but here is one panel already set up. And obviously you would change the title to whichever panel you have. And then, you might copy and paste images. You might select text. You might color things in, add shapes, etc. So we can use Google Slides as a digital canvas, but of course you don't have to. You can do it by yourself. I formatted this as an 8.5 by 11. Okay, so you could very well just take a blank piece of printer paper and do the exact same kind of thing by hand. Okay, you're going to be assigned one panel from the following list. This is the 6 panels, or these are the 6 panels for our comic. This is like, okay, here's the beginning of the story. Oops, here's the beginning of the story. Here's kind of in the middle of the story. Here's the end of the story. So let's look. In the beginning, you take an image, right? So panel 1 is how your phone and how you see an image. So imagine, right? Imagine a comic like, oh, you see a flower. And then you have out your phone and you're taking a picture of that flower. Okay, so maybe you have a diagram, you go online, you Google stick figure holding phone. You got that. Then you Google flower, you paste that in. Okay, you make a representation of someone seeing, and maybe someone with their phone taking an image of some object, flower, dog, friend, whatever. Okay, the second panel, how does your phone and how do you hear and record that sound? Okay, okay, interesting. So this is getting into how we hear, which you should remember how to do. Maybe getting into a little bit how we hold on to information. Okay, like floppy, punch cards, all that. Maybe giving some information on that. Now, I know in parentheses it says like how your phone and you, how your phone and you. It's okay if you want to focus on one of these versus the other. Your camera is very similar to your eye. Okay, it's okay if you focus a little bit more on, say, you. And so you talk about like how you are able to see color, maybe the 3 idea. Remember that? Okay, the cones in your eyes, mixing colors, light reflecting, that kind of thing. It's okay if you don't have a huge amount of detail for both. You can just focus on one of them if you want. Okay. Also, it's okay if you maybe Google some extra information. If you're interested in a little more detail than we've gone over in like camera filters or something, that's okay if you want to research that and include it as well. If you keep reading, you just get different parts of the story. So you're taking an image, you're hearing the sound, your phone is processing and storing. Oh my gosh, this is the stuff like we've just been doing, right? Maybe transistors, maybe analog versus digital, maybe again, flash memory, stuff like that. Okay, and then number 4, how the Snapchat is sent and received. Data transmission, we've learned about that. So you're getting some physics there. How the person on the receiving end is viewing their screen, and then how the person is receiving the sounds that they hear. So this is our 6-stage story. You're going to have one of them, and it's based on your last name. Mr. Thrasher, last name of T, I would be doing number 5. I would make a panel focused on how someone is viewing an image on their screen. Maybe looking at pixels, maybe the 3 colors, maybe how your brain is combining, stuff like that. So maybe there's a panel that's kind of like this, okay? Now, you want to make sure you have the number, so I know which one at a glance, and the title. Okay, again, if you look at the template, it already has a title on there, so something like that's fine. All right, your panel should show an assembled visual, like a collage. I don't want you to go on Google and like, if you just happen to find this complete poster that some company or some website made of viewing a phone, I don't want you to do that. I want you to assemble some different JPEGs on your own. Okay, like I said, you find an image of a phone, you find an image of a person, you find an image of an eye, you make those array diagrams, okay? I shouldn't just see one copy and pasted image that you just stumbled upon online. Maybe use it as a resource, I mean, fantastic. But that's a little too much just copying and pasting. I want you to be assembling to show me, yeah, you're able to recognize and interpret and present this information. Okay, you might want to have kind of like blow up bubbles, and what I mean is if I quickly go back to right here, you know, there's a lot of things here that's happening on the small scale. So maybe you have a picture of someone's ear, but you wanted to zoom in on what's happening in the ear, or pixels, or transistors, like, oh, that's possible. So this kind of diagram might be helpful, not required, but that might be helpful to include so it's clear what you're saying. Okay, now each of your panel needs 3 separate descriptions, 3 different pieces of information regarding the physics and the technology that we've learned about. And that's because part of your points for this is based on giving 3 pieces of information. Now over here on the right, I know we didn't really use objectives since we've started doing at-home learning. These were old objectives, but this is going over pretty much the stuff we learned about. Okay, you can use this as a guide bank. Oh my gosh, what do I do for panel 4? Send and receive information. Let's see, let's look over this. Oh, look right here. I can explain how wireless signals transfer information and the difference between analog and digital. So maybe that's kind of your guiding principle. If you have to go back and watch a video, so be it. Okay, you're trying to find 3 pieces of information. Okay, analog and digital, or versus digital, that might be 1 piece. Okay, and then try and find a couple others. All right, if you're having trouble thinking of something, you can email me. Again, it's okay if you do a little Google searching if you want, but you should be able to think of 3 distinct physics and or technology pieces. Okay, you should also make sure, you know, there's no spelling or grammar errors and you have correct information. Okay, obviously it should be like some good physics info. Don't make a panel saying the moment you take a picture with your phone, you're getting cancer because visible light causes cancer. Don't do that. Okay, your grade is right here. This is worth 6 points. Okay, so besides these couple of videos, this is the biggest thing this week. And this is the last thing this week, 6 points. 3 of our usual assignments. 2 points for making something that looks visually pleasant, right? There's color, you have a variety of images that you've assembled, that kind of thing. There's 2 points. 3 points for those 3 pieces of information. Okay, 1 point each. All right, and then 1 point if your physics is good and you don't have any spelling or grammar mistakes. Again, this is going to be due Saturday, May 16th. And right here, this is a link to Mr. Thrasher's YouTube playlist that I think has all of our videos that I had on Edpuzzle. You don't need to go back on Edpuzzle. I just put them on YouTube, so if you want to skip forward and stuff, you can. If you think I'm missing a video, let me know, and I'll try and hunt it down for you. Okay, but that's due on Saturday. That's due on Saturday. Okay, you have access to that document and to that template. If you have questions, let me know. Now, let's talk about the remainder of this week. Okay, there is no final exam, remainder of the semester, I should say. There is no final exam. Okay, we're not taking one. I don't want to give one. I have issues with like exam security. I don't want to make 1,001 different finals. It's credit, no credit. This is a pretty low stress semester for the vast majority of you. No final exam, which to be honest means we're not doing anything during finals week. There's no regular class schedule during finals week, and we're not taking a final exam. So this class, we're not doing anything finals week. Next week is considered dead week, and certainly in the past we've gone over like new material and stuff like that, but we're finishing our unit this week. I don't want to start a new unit with like 1 week to go. I want to give this as an opportunity for you to make up material. So next week and finals week, there's no new stuff from me. Nothing new is going to be posted, with maybe one exception, which I'll talk about this in just a moment. All right, no new physics material is going to be posted on the calendar or as a module. Okay, this week is it. We are done with physics material after this week. This capstone, that's the capstone of our semester. Okay, so what could you be doing the next 2 weeks? Well, first, if you have a solid 90%, 80%, probably 70%, as long as you do a good job on this capstone, to be honest, you might be done. Okay, if you've been doing most of the assignments and things like that, and you're clearly going to be earning credit, you're all set. If you're maybe teetering on that edge, if you're in the 60% range, or if you're currently not earning credit, you have below 60%, I'm giving you 2 weeks to make up material. Now, to be honest, remember, you get late credit. So instead of 2 points, you're probably just going to get 1 point. But you have 2 weeks to make up this material. Also, if you're making up material and I see that, I really want to make sure you earn credit. So if you feel like you're really working and you're trying your best to do everything from this past semester and you feel like you're not getting close to that earning credit stage, send me an email. Let's talk. Okay, I want to help you out. But to help you out, you got to be doing the work for this online learning at home time. So you're going to have 2 weeks essentially to make up material if you need to. Now, I might send out a couple emails about grades, especially if you're at risk for no credit. I'm also going to send out an optional Google form that's reviewing the class. You don't have to do it. It's not worth points or anything. You don't have to sign in with Google. It's anonymous. You could go to an incognito window if you want. Okay, but I want to ask questions about the class in general, like before the pandemic. You know, what things did you really like from Mr. Thrasher? What things did you really not like? You'll be able to air your grievances. And then also maybe I'll have some questions about this online learning. What things went well, what things didn't go well, because maybe it's going to happen a little bit for next year's students. We don't really know. Okay, so no new physics material after this capstone. You know, maybe look out for an email or two. But to be honest, we're pretty much wrapping up, which means this is pretty much my last video. This is the last screencast that I'm recording to give you information. The semester and our year in physics is pretty much over. And you know, this semester is so disappointing, right? It's going to be 3 solid months where, you know, I wasn't able to walk around and joke with all of you, see your work, ask and answer your questions, ask you questions, answer your questions, say goodbye to you. So, you know, I know it loses a lot of meaning coming from a YouTube video, but I just want to say thank you for a fantastic semester. I'm sorry this year didn't work out the way maybe some of you would have liked, with like being in class, graduating, seeing your friends, signing yearbooks all together. You know, that's really sad. It's really too bad. And I miss all of you greatly, and I'm going to miss all of you moving forward. If you're a senior, I wish you the absolute best in whatever you're moving on to, job, college, career. Maybe you're not sure, but I wish you the absolute best. For those of you who are sophomores, juniors, I don't know if I have any freshmen, but have a lovely summer. Maybe see you around campus next year. But thanks a lot. And, you know, it's weird doing physics online at home. I appreciate those of you who continued with the material. It made me feel good when I saw that you guys watched videos and answered questions. I know it's worth points and all that, but I hope you found this topic interesting. I hope you found the class interesting. And thank you overall for a very nice year. Okay, this is Mr. Thrasher. I'm probably signing off for the last time, unless you want to email me or send me a request for like a Zoom meeting, office meeting, especially if you're not understanding something. But take care, all of you, and thanks again. Goodbye.